What's going on? Back here for number 2 in the line of MNCAA season recaps. We got your St. Thomas Tommies insider, Ryan Stieg. Stieger, how are we doing, buddy?
Doing good. I wish hockey season was still going on. I still have the spirit inside of me, so you kind of but summer layoff will be good too. So
Yeah, it's kind of that double-edged sword. Like the days that there's nothing going on with hockey, I'm kind of like weirdly excited. But if it like, stretches out for too long, I'm like, okay, I need it back.
Yeah. It's and the Wild not being in the playoffs doesn't help either because you're just like
disagree. I think it helps tremendously for my hockey. Well, just because they're not going to do anything in the first round. They never do. Until they have a team that's ready to at least be competitive in the first round. Like, no, I'm fine with them just not participating. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I get that mindset. I mean, I've reached the point where I just naturally assume.
Well, plus, would we even be able to watch the games?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Bally or Veach, cover your ears. Bally's. I still don't understand why everyone calls it Bally's. I mean, to each their own. I'm never gonna correct it to the extent that I do re-sign versus resign because that one I'm just never gonna give up on. Mm-hmm. But if people want to add an S at the end of Bally, that power to them.
I feel like some people think it's like going back to that old fitness club that happened around the cities. It was called Bally's or something like that way back in the day. And I think some people still think, oh, I hear Bally, that must mean the fitness club or something like that.
See, to me, I would have thought it would be like the casino. Like that's where I'm like every time someone says Bally's, like I go directly to Vegas.
Yeah. Well, what I don't know. I don't like it.
I'm a degenerate gambler. You have the nostalgic fitness center vibes. Whatever. We got different energies.
Well, that's what makes this a fun show.
There we go. Well, all right, Steger. A lot to unpack here with a very interesting Tommy season. Just give me a couple sentences, though. What was the 2023-2024 season for UST?
A great third season marred by injuries. I feel like that's good 6 words.
Boom. To the point. Punctual. I love it. All right. Well, that's a wrap, everybody. I mean, I think that's fair, right? And I think it's one of those things where I know you and Maxon were the only ones that kind of were giving proper favor to St. Thomas coming in. Obviously, like you said, season didn't necessarily end the way you wanted, but I mean, let's talk about just the first. We'll even break it into thirds. First third of the season, like, what the hell happened here?
Well, you look at the start of the year, there's that big win over St. Cloud, which is huge because it's like, I feel like last year was are they there? Are they coming a D1 team? Because they had their moments. They beat every team in the conference at least once. They got their first sweep. They made a lot of progress, but I think this year beating a ranked St. Cloud team on the road in overtime was huge. And I think playing the Gophers the next week at the X, leading for a good chunk of it even in the third period, I'm watching Twitter, people are just freaking out like, oh my God, is this team like for real now? They're taking it to the defending runners up. And eventually, the Gophers came back in that one. But I feel like they declared early that they haven't arrived, but we're pretty close to, we're making a statement that we're almost there. And it got off to a good first start. For the first half of the year, they were playing really well. I think, they got to first place, I think, at some point, and we're in the thick of it. 1, 2, 3, kind of been bouncing a little bit. And then you hit the Christmas break. And you had that game against Vermont, those 2 series, and those 2 games against Vermont. And that was the first time in the whole year where I was like, what happened? Teams have off weekends, but that was just so uncharacteristically bad. I mean, they got smoked in both games. And then it's not like you look at the scores and they weren't bad necessarily, but just they were outplayed. They were like a step, 2 steps behind both games. And it looked weird.
Yeah.
And so that sums up the first half. You're trying to figure out, are they making a statement right away? Are they, like we've arrived, or are they just taking a big step back? So that kind of sums up the first half.
For you then with Vermont, is it something where that series kind of flagged to you like, oh, this might actually be who they are? Or was that just a bump in the road right before all of the chaos ensued? Like what's the real version of the Tommy?
When I look at the Vermont series, I feel like that's where cracks started to show a little bit. And then I find out as the season wears on, that's where the injuries are starting to happen. Rico told me after the year that that's when guys started to get hurt. They're playing through injuries at that point. They're trying to just, try to stay consistent. But so I was more when I found that out, and it's like, well, that explains a lot why they were so off during that weekend, is if guys are starting to get hurt. So at the holiday break, I sat there thinking, I think this team is in good shape, but the next few weekends are going to show how the rest of the year is going to go. And they started off the second half good. They had that exhibition game against Duluth. Really, I mean, I don't put any stock in exhibition games at all, but they look good against a UMD team that brought a bunch of fans. The atmosphere was good. And it just kind of, I thought they were sliding into it. They got back into a groove. They were, guys were clicking. Cooper Gay was really emerging as a player. Mac Byers was getting his scoring touch going. He was getting back on his little hot streak thing. Guys were starting to show up, and the St. Thomas was making it wasn't just a minor statement to start. They were like, this is where they were in first place for a chunk. Like, people started to take notice. Oh, they're in first place, and this isn't just like a 1 weekend thing. They've been in first place for 2, 3, 4 weeks. They were at the time the best team in the CCHA, and you can make a good case that they still were at the end of the year. But as everybody knows, the injuries happened, and it wasn't just 1 or 2 guys. It was the rosters just wiped out, and it was a really, whenever you get bounced in the playoffs, there's only one team that's going to be happy at the end of the season. But I think St. Thomas was going to be one of those big what ifs. We could have been hoisting the MacNaughton Cup. We probably should have been if we didn't have people get hurt. And it got really bad at the end of the year. And anybody who's paying attention to my tweets knows that, it got really bad at the end.
Yeah. And let's talk then. This year 3, big jump for a little over half the season, like you said, before the injury set in.
Mm-hmm.
Is this just the natural progression of what Rico has been building, or did you see anything different from him in year 3 that kind of separated from years 1 and 2?
Well, he told me at the end of the year that he doesn't put any stock into that first year. And I don't really put a whole lot of it into it either.
Okay.
He came in and inherited a team that was basically a bunch of D3 guys. And, there may have been a couple transfers in there, and tried to just plow through the season the best they could. And then they brought recruits in year 2, and they showed the progress that, they're getting there. There's a ways to go, but they've made some progress. But year 3, I feel like in the process, I joke with him a lot because that's Rico's thing is the process, but it's you're basically building a Division I team, not entirely from scratch, but you're basically turning a D3 team into a D1 team, and that's not easy. And the fact that they were in cup contention, MacNaughton Cup contention, till probably the last 2 weeks of the season just shows just how far they've come in a short period of time. So I would look at year 3 as, at the start of the year, I predicted St. Thomas would get home ice. And I thought if they can get that, that's a good stepping stone. You can build on that for year 4. Not only did they get that, they got finished in second place and almost won the MacNaughton Cup. So they exceeded my expectations and probably a lot of others. So when I look at it, I see it as a great, not a I would say they took 2 steps this year. This wasn't like an increment thing. They took a giant step forward, not a jump, but they took a big step forward. And it was a fun season to cover. And I separate myself from teams a lot, every team that I've ever covered, but I felt bad for them at the end because it was just like, I'm supposed to stay as unbiased as possible, and I was, but I was just watching. I'm just like, this team should be winning the conference title right now. And for people who don't, they couldn't fill out a line chart. The last 2 weeks of the season, they couldn't put together a full line chart. Didn't have the extra skater. Were missing 2 forwards. Sometimes didn't have a full D lineup. It was like, I haven't seen a team that bad with injuries, a college team, in a long time. And you could tell by the end, Rico was just like, we're just trying to get through it. It's like, we're trying to win one game at a time. And the fact that they hosted a first round playoff series is definitely a step in the right direction, I think.
And you keep on saying, right, not a stepping stone, but 2 steps. Didn't quite jump, but again, big steps. What more do you think there is for this team? Like, obviously, like, besides winning MacNaughton, besides winning the Natty, right? Like, what do you need to see from the team, remove accolades, for them to really have fully arrived? Like, is what we saw the first half of this year indicative of expectations now moving forward, or where do you see things sitting in that?
I would say, now, if you ask Rico, he would always say, well, each year's different and the expectations are different, which is coach speak. But for me, I would say the expectations are high now. You were in contention for the MacNaughton Cup. You were in it until like the last 2 weeks of the year. Now it's like the expectations are you should win it next year. You're probably, I know Bemidji won it, this year, and they had a great end of the year and probably should have been in the NCAA tournament. But
didn't have a great transfer portal, though.
That's true. But they're made, if they need to get home ice next year, they've already done it. If they can win the MacNaughton Cup next year, that'll be the final piece. I know there's more in the process, it's a building thing, but if they actually win the conference next year, I think that is, we're where we want to be. We're a D1 program. We've shown signs of being a D1 program where we've now, hey, everybody pay attention to us. We're now the team to beat in the CCHA. We're one of the best teams in the state. I think they'll be in the conversation next year. Like, if you did a poll next year, which is going to be the best team in the state of Minnesota of the big 6 college teams, you could make a case that probably St. Thomas and the Gophers are probably going to be 1 and 2 on there. I'm sure everybody's going to disagree with me. Mankato fans will be like, year 2 and Luke Scran's going to turn around. I think he will. I think Mankato's made a lot of progress. But if you look at what St. Thomas did this year and what the process has been, I would say I think them and the Gophers are probably the 2 best teams in the state of Minnesota. Now, I'm sure we'll play that clip. We'll hype it up in the week, and we'll see the response I get. But right. So, but I think if they win the MacNaughton next year, they will have showed that we've officially truly arrived. And then the tough part is their little half punishment of moving up to D1. So,
which is crazy to me, but you've spent enough time on that this year that I don't think there's much more oxygen we need to waste on the matter. It's ridiculous. It's fucking stupid, but fair or not, the measuring stick will always be the Gophers.
Yeah.
And like you said, like they competed with them early in the year. If we're going to be objective, unbiased, when do you truly think it will be like a true rivalry, competitive, balanced matchup where you go in and you're like, this is anyone's game? Like, do you think we're there next year already, or what season do you expect that to really be the end point?
If you looked at Mankato right now, if you looked at St. Cloud right now, if you looked at the Gophers, I'd say not next year. Year after that, that's when it's going to be.
Yeah, for me, it's 2 or 3 years. And
I would say in 2 years, it'll reach rivalry where it's equal. Right now, I'd say, based on what I saw this year, I'd say it's more 70-30 in favor of the Gophers, maybe 65-45.
Sure.
And then maybe after in 2 years, it could be more of a 50-50 or a 55-45 kind of a thing where I think it could be. And I think that'd be great for the cities in general.
Yeah.
I mean, that game at the X was so cool, that the St. Thomas Gophers game, because the lower bowl was filled, the atmosphere was there, the offenses were there. You got Gophers NHL prospects are doing their thing, and St. Thomas is showing that they're there too. You know, we might be a step behind, elite talent wise, but we can keep up. We can, it's like, so yeah, I would say give it 2 years. 3, definitely 3. You were thinking 2 or 3. I'm thinking definitely 3, but I would say 2 years from now, yeah, it'll be a good rivalry, and hopefully the arena will be built by then, and it can actually really, blossom from there.
Well, that goes to my next point too. Like, you're right. The X was a great environment for that game.
Mm-hmm.
I need it in college rinks. I need to see those fan sections get fully bought in, which it's just not going to happen when it's on that kind of a stage. That's just not a college environment.
Mm-hmm.
We got the rink on the way.
Mm-hmm.
The day the rink gets built, is that the day that the switch is made and they're going to the NCHC?
Oh boy, there's a question. I think the CCHA would get hurt badly if St. Thomas were to leave. I think that St. Thomas leaving would be just to the league, because
what's that have to do with anything?
I don't know. I'm just trying to think. I'm just
like, is Lucia just like funneling the mafia money to them to keep them there, or like what the hell does Rico Blasi care about how the CCHA is impacted if he gets to make the jump to big boy NCHC? Like I hear you. I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Who at St. Thomas gives a flying fuck?
I probably at their core, they probably don't. Because everybody's trying to get theirs. They want to look at the best situation for them. But I would say the NCHC just expanded with ASU. The question was, I guess, is does the NCHC? For me, does the NCHC want to keep expanding?
Here's I have 2 questions for you.
Sure.
Do leagues prefer odd or even numbers?
I would say leagues prefer even.
Okay.
Because it creates more balanced schedule.
Is 9 an odd or an even number?
Mathematically, It would be
it's a simple question, doctor.
Yes, 9 is an odd number. So
that's my answer, unless someone else beats him to it. Like, and let's be real here. If you're the NCHC, you are salivating over the idea of having a foothold in the Twin Cities. You are. That there's just no way around it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I would imagine that they're probably interested. They won't outwardly admit it, probably.
Of course not.
Yeah, but yeah, it would be devastating the CCHA, I think, if they were to leave. But like you said,
they were okay 3 years ago, weren't they?
Yeah. I think.
Hang on. This is essentially the real life transfer portal.
Yeah,
like, this is like the you're whatever cute little come on and join the CCHA, turn into a powerhouse, transfer to the NCHC. That it is the exact same thing. It's just an organization instead of a player.
Your analogies are pretty awesome, man. I gotta admit, I didn't think of that as a transfer portal.
Everything's about the transfer portal now.
Well, which is, depending on who you ask, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah, that's a loaded. I mean, if you're a goalie looking to play in North Dakota, it's a great thing. Right?
Why develop your own goalies when you can just grab anybody else's goalie?
It's funny though, because you hear NHL GMs say that. They're like, honestly, I don't know how to identify a goalie when they're 17. I definitely don't know shit about how to develop them properly. I'll wait until someone else finds a good one and they're not willing to pay them, and then I'll pay them. Like, there's validity to that. There is. Mm-hmm. And with North Dakota, just like every year, they don't need the goalie to fit in right away. They just need them to figure it out by like sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And as long as they got that back half the year, gravy, they're in the tournament. And well, they're losing in the first round, but that's not important.
Well, win the Penrose. I mean, win the conference, win the regular season, and then make your quick exit in the NCAA tournament. But I, as a whole, I could see St. Thomas leaving to the NCHC. I think that'll probably eventually happen. But as far as a timeline, because I look at that arena and, their set date originally was 2025, 2026. And I feel like that's probably going to get pushed back a year just because, you have that thing that got released saying that they're worried about the environmental study that's going on in regard with the arena. And you're wondering how long that's going to get worked out. And it's just, I think they will eventually leave, but I'm wondering when that arena is probably going to actually officially be built.
Right. I'm just saying the two are going to be pretty close.
Oh yeah. As soon as that first game occurs in the arena, I could see the NCHC like making their offer opening night and being like, want to come next year? And yeah, I could see that.
Back up the Mike Hastings Brinks truck.
Yeah.
Then I got to ask, like, we're already talking about the Gophers being the measuring stick, right? And again, this is just being objective. I know I'm a Gopher guy, but let's be real. They went through a little bit of a down spell. They are very back, especially, I mean, looking to next year with just the players that they actually are returning and looking at the pipeline, like they've got some really good recruits. They're probably a team that's realistically in the Frozen Four conversation for the next 3 years at least.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we have talked about it, like St. Thomas on the rise. You were as bold as to say that next year they probably start as the number 2 behind the Gophers. Let's be fair, though. Big start to the year for St. Thomas, and no one will take that away from them. If we're being objective here, do you feel like that got amplified to any extent because literally every other stalwart Minnesota team had down years? UMD was down bad. St. Cloud, uncharacteristically bad to start the year, rebounded, but never fully recovered. And Mankato, let's be real, they lost a ton of their best players. They lost their coach. This was kind of a speed bump a year where, like you said, Strand is going to have stuff figured out. Mm-hmm. Do you see St. Thomas as the most likely team outside of the Gophers to be in a Frozen Four in the next 3 to 5 years? Or which program do you think is best poised to be in that conversation with the Gophers?
Well, I want to say it's Duluth just because of their pedigree the last few years.
Because of their coach.
Yeah. And Sandlin's, one of the best in the business. And so I want to say it's going to be UMD, but it really they had an off year, and they've been the last couple of years have been not sending the world on fire. So you're wondering if that's just a bump, is it going to be like, because programs go through that. So maybe it's just a little down thing. The Gophers went through that stretch too, but look where they are now. So I want to say it's UMD, but I don't know. I'm confident. I feel like St. Thomas is going to be that number 2. I have a lot of faith in Rico. When he got first hired, I think a lot of guys were a little, he had a kind of a tough exit from Miami. He built Miami into basically one of the best programs in the country, took him the national championship. Mm-hmm. And then he had a rough exit there. So some people are like, well, is he the right guy to hire? He's shown how much progress he's made in a short period of time. And I like he's got a good recruiter in Leon Hayward. They're creating a good culture there. So yeah, I would say St. Thomas 2, UMD probably 2A. That's what I would say. So yeah, I was just thinking more increment wise, but I think I'm more and more feeling more positive about this program the more and more I think about it. I really think give it 2 years when that because they're in year 4. They have 2 years left before they can finally make the NCAA tournament, even if they ended, so give it 2 years, they could be in there. I could see it. Will they make it all the way to the next Frozen Four site? I don't think so, but if I think they can make a tournament bid, I think they'll say in 2 years.
All right. So then tell the fans why you hate St. Cloud and Mankato so much.
I'm sure Caleb will have thoughts.
No, never.
This episode. I don't hate St. Cloud and Mankato. I actually think they're great programs.
Oh, so they're 2B and 2C?
You're holding me to it tonight, man. I gotta say,
you know what? I'm not as nice as Maxon. I'm sorry.
All right. I'll
let's frame it a different way, because I am being mean.
Okay.
What reservations do you have with those programs? Like, why did they have, like, we know obviously Hastings leaving, that's a thing. Do you think that Mankato truly gets out of that hole, or are they always going to be a little bit back from what we've seen the past, call it 5 or 6 years?
I think they're going to take a step back, just because I think Strand will kind of right the ship this next year. But you look at just the gap that's being created with the portal, how the Big Ten and the NCHC and some of the teams in Hockey East are just yanking guys and stuff like that. And they're taking players from the CCHA that normally would probably choose to go to Mankato and stuff like that. So I want to believe, because I like Mankato and I love the atmosphere in the arena and their fans are great. But it's just, I feel like Hastings built something great there, and it took a long time to get there, but he built it. With the transfer portal and all the changes that happen in college hockey, how long will it take Strand to get them back there? So,
sure. Well, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Give me this then.
Mm-hmm.
Current landscape in college hockey, Mike Hastings is still there. Does Mankato persevere, or do they fall by the wayside because of the transfer portal?
I think they're still in the conversation, just because Hastings is a good recruiter. He's just an amazing recruiter, and
but can he keep them there? Because no one's questioning his recruiting. He is the best out there at identifying 25-year-olds who almost have their AARP cards. Like, he does a great job of it. He's actually done a phenomenal job of getting all of the young, talented players in Wisconsin to leave. Like, he has that down pat. But in all seriousness, like it is a different conversation. Like maybe he got out at the perfect time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because the CCHA, in a lot of people's minds, and some recruits' minds, and in fans' minds, is considered a lesser league. Whether that's fair or not, I don't particularly think that's fair, per se, but I understand why people think so, because the CCHA hasn't had the success that other leagues have. It's still only in its its third, fourth year or so, but
Well, and it's a different playing field too. Like, I know this is an aggressive comparison, but dude, go check out the facilities at Mankato, which are fine, right? Mm-hmm. And then go take a visit at North Dakota.
Yeah,
it's not the same thing, and that's the allure. Like that's what the guys are interested in. It's competing for a natty. Like it's just really hard. The CCHA is getting bent over by the transfer portal, and there's no way around it. And does it make sense in certain situations? Yeah. Is it getting abused? I also think, yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't know what the right answer is.
Yeah. It's the CCHA is just they're in a tough spot. I think it's a bunch of teams. You got your Minnesota teams, your Michigan teams, and then there's Bowling Green, and then there's Augustana. So it's kind of like a wacky map, and it's like the WCHA one was created when the CCHA dissolved a few years ago. That the then CCHA, it was basically all the leftover teams kind of came together and created a conference, and they made do with it the best they could. But Mankato was pretty much the king of the conference, and everybody else was kind of just, trying to finish second and stuff like that.
I got a fix.
Okay, sure.
CCHA exclusive rule.
Okay.
Postseason, you're competing for the MacNaughton Cup. Any team you beat in a series, you get to take 2 players. Any 2 players you want.
Oh.
Not permanently, just for that season, right? Yeah. Just looking forward to that year's group of 16. Mm-hmm. I think whoever wins the CCHA could actually have a pretty squirrely team. Still not going to be like a top seed by any means, but they could be frisky.
They're a scrappy team. They'll give you a good fight for 3 periods.
But I mean, I guess the question is, would Rico even take any of those players? Because they're really not bought in on the process.
That's true.
You'll have to ask him about it this summer when you guys do your road trip together.
Yeah, we'll see if that actually happens. I've been told I can't ask any questions on this road trip, so it'll basically be me sitting.
No, don't ask questions. Just make outlandish statements that he can't help but comment on. Like, God damn it, Ryan, are you serious? You just got to get him to snap. That's it.
Yeah,
just once.
No. Just like
you have to ask any questions.
Sound off on the power play or something like that. Wow, your power play was really terrible the last few weeks.
Yeah,
are you kidding me?
Declarative statements, or like instead of asking him a question, just like say like, "You're going to tell me this."
Yeah,
you're not asking. You are just. It's a declaration.
Yes, make a declarative statement rather than a question. I got it.
I think it works.
Yeah,
there's always a loophole. You just got to be willing to bend logic a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. The last one. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you ever think of going into law, man? You could be a great defense attorney or something like that.
Buddy, I would love the whole concept of it, and I've actually had plenty of people ask me that. 0 shot in hell I could get through law school with all the reading you have to do. Like my ADHD is just fucking bouncing all over the place. You think I can read any of those textbooks? No chance, dude. If I could have a sidekick, if it could be a 2-person gig and they feed me all the info and I use that to go argue, in. But if I've got to memorize all that shit and I've got to be down to the letter of the law, I will be the most worthless lawyer that's ever existed. We can't all we can all aspire, but we can never really live up to the expectations set out by Elle Woods.
I've seen Legally Blonde once.
Apparently that's all it took because you knew the reference.
Oh man.
But
get away from lawyer talk.
I am fluent in bird law and many other various lawyerings.
Okay.
Not an Always Sunny fan. All right, we're whittling this down. He's bigger on Legally Blonde than he is on Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
I've only seen It's Always Sunny like a few times. I feel like I've been told I've been missing out or something like that.
First 5 seasons are some of the best television you will ever watch. After that, it gets dicey. It's a little more hit or miss. Some people will contend with me that it's consistent for a few seasons beyond that. I'm telling you, seasons 1 through 5, there was one episode I didn't like, period. The rest, they're genius. They're so funny.
Well, it's like when I tell people about, people aren't fans of The Simpsons. I said seasons like 3 through 8, Simpsons wise, are some of the best comedic seasons ever. After that, there's a slide. I'll admit it. You could probably just throw it away after that point, because there is an occasional episode that's pretty funny, but like those glory years, like what you're saying with Sunny, like that 5-year stretch, it's just like those are the ones that everybody quotes. All those,
If we're gonna go with true longevity, though, no one touches South Park. I think it's seasons like I'll even be like I'll narrow it in. I'm gonna say seasons 5 through 15 are pure gold, and they're on season. I think they got through season 26 now. That is more than a third of the seasons, and they're on 26 seasons. Like that's 10. I guess that's 11 seasons. That's impressive. That is a crazy run.
And I bet they probably
Family Guy's dumb.
Family Guy's dumb.
Every episode is the exact same thing, man. Like a couple episodes are like I thought were very funny, and then I'm like, oh shit, you just do the same thing every episode. Cool.
I like to tell people Family Guy is like the original 3 seasons, and like the couple seasons after they made their comeback, they really tried to be original. Like this is, we're back, we're on, and then it's like you said, it just became a formula every single episode.
Yeah, dude, the manatee grabs the idea ball and pops it in, and they're good. Like, I don't know. Again, people are probably like screaming at me right now, like so upset because there's people that are diehard Family fans. Like, again, Family Guy fans. I think there are good episodes. There are good scenes. Like, I get it. But if you're gonna just like beat me over the head with the exact same thing over and over and over, I'm gonna just kind of get over it.
I hear you.
Yeah. First like 10 episodes I watched, though, I was like, oh shit, this is awesome.
It is like the first 3 years that came out on DVD that in college that everybody watched that I knew, and that was great. And then they came back, did 2, maybe 3 years of really good stuff where they came up with good scripts, and every episode is different. And then, like you said, everything, there was a formula, and they just milked it week after week after. So, but where were we talking about before we went on this wild tangent?
We are off the rails, and honestly, that's how it's intended to be. I don't even know how we got on the topic. Oh yeah, you asked me if I was ever considering
law,
and then we got to bird law, and then we got to TV shows, and it just bounced all over. All right, if there's anything else you have, all good. We can get into whatever. I just have 2 quick ones. Sure. One. And this is, again, more obscure, like talking futuristic, but how long before you think we get the first St. Thomas alum playing in the NHL?
I would give it 4 years.
4 years that player will exist in the program, or 4 years there will be an NHL player who formerly played for St. Thomas?
4 years that player will exist in the program.
Got it. Yeah. I think that's pretty reasonable. I think that's fair.
Yeah. I think the recruiting process is good. Again, the process, I just mentioned it, but it is. He's a good recruiter. Yeah. And, give it 4 years. I think you'll see probably a first-round draft pick or second-round draft pick playing for St. Thomas. And I would say an NHL career in the future. I'd say 4 years is what my prediction is.
I like that. And then there was another question that, yes, the ever important battle that I wage with you, Mr. Stieg. We talk about the proper emoji to represent St. Thomas. You always want to talk, it's either this tiger that's somehow a tomcat or it's a shield because they have a shield logo, which like doesn't have to leak. I don't know. What's it going to take for me to get you to come around on leveraging the ever faithful turkey, which was almost our national bird, by the way. Now we eat it annually to celebrate stealing land from the Indians. It's kind of fucked up spin. Like turkey, that is the toughest spin zone that's ever transpired. What's it going to take for you to be open to the turkey emoji?
What's your thought process on the turkey emoji?
Male turkey's a tom.
That's
you thought I just randomly conjured like you know what'd be fun if we just had a turkey for the Tommies.
You're an Always Sunny in Philadelphia fan. I figured that'd be a thing. It would be great.
Because I talk about bird law, you're like, oh yeah, that's why he wants a fucking turkey. God damn it. No, because a male turkey is a tom. And dude, think about it. You could have them do the whole Minnesota Wild thing, like all the Wild players, they drew those the Wild logos that just, I'm not convinced they tried. I'm convinced the prompt was make something that we can pretend as a Wild logo, but really you just butchered. And that's what everyone went and did. The players for St. Thomas, they could just do like hand turkeys and just like have a whole fun time with it.
You put a lot of thought into this.
That I just came up with on the spot. The thought behind having the emoji be represented by turkey, that I've thought about for a long time.
You've made a good case. Like Elle Woods, you have declared why the Tom turkey makes sense. So since St. Thomas is called the Tommies, their mascot is a tomcat, but it's actually a tiger.
That's confusing. I don't get that at all.
It is. I don't get it either. And I've tried to make a pitch to try to make a mascot jersey. I've tried to get them to make a third jersey with like the tomcat logo and put on there, but I feel like it's just fallen on deaf ears.
And turkeys on the third jersey. Yes. I'm with you.
Yeah. I will sign on and agree with you on the turkey thing.
Oh, let's fucking go. That's a wrap. I needed to accomplish nothing. I should have just opened the interview with that and we would have been done. Oh
yeah, I would have briefly given my 6-word sentence to sum up the season, and we would have talked about the turkey, and it would have been
6 words on the season. Hand turkeys. I'm out of here. Mic drop.
Yes, and that'll conclude the 2023-24 St. Thomas season.
I love that. Awesome. Yeah. Anything you feel like we missed, man? Again, you are more plugged in with St. Thomas hockey than anyone that's not actually part of the team. Like, anything that you feel like I've missed?
I think we summed it up pretty well. Overall, just going back to what I said, I think Tommies fans, who by the way are huge fans of the show, shout out to them. They
love that. All of them. Love it.
Yeah. So, but I think the program is on great footing. Give it 3 years, that team's I think they're going to be in the NCAA tournament. I think they're getting good people coming in who believe in the program. That arena thing is going to be huge. Like, that's going to be like a statement. I don't know if it'll reach Ralph level at UND, but like, look at this arena.
Hang on. Anyone that's not watching, as Stieg said that and wanted to compare it to the Ralph, his arm just goes up in a straight motion. That is the only way to match the Ralph Engelstad Arena, is if we have like someone from the Nazi regime running it.
I was trying to do something here, and that's what ended up.
All of you, check it out. It's going to be on YouTube. The whole conversation here will be on YouTube. Yes, that's including bird law. We're not erasing it. Get over it. But Ryan talks about comparing the new arena to Ralph Engelstad and just
yes. What was your highlight of the episode? Bird law? No woods? No, it's this.
No, it's still hand turkeys. Still hand turkeys, but that's a close second.
Yeah, but yeah, overall, I think there's a lot of excitement for this program, for fans. I think, this is something to keep an eye on. If you're not following St. Thomas, you should. With this coming year, you should definitely keep an eye on it, because I think they're going to be the favorites to win the MacNaughton, and I think they're probably the team most stacked. Rika's going to hate me to say this, but I think they're in the best shape of winning it. So yeah, I would say, yeah, that's what I would close out with. This is going to be, it's a fun ride so far, and I think year 4 is going to be great.
Love it. Well, hey, all of you out there, appreciate the support all throughout the season. Follow on Twitter at MN_NCAA. Follow our guy here, the only insider for St. Thomas, now on board with the turkey emoji, at Ryan Stieg, Stieg. And of course, check him out at tripledeek.com, tripledeek.com.
Yep.
You forgot all about that, didn't you?
I blanked on that. I was like,
you gotta say it 3 times and they'll remember it. Or Mickey Smalls just appears if you say it into a mirror. One of the two.
Yes. So 4th time, the tripledeek.com. I'll try to work some more stuff in the summer for people. I'm taking a little side break, but I'm gonna still start kicking out stuff probably in the next few weeks. I'll start working on some extra stuff. So
first article, why the Tommies need to officially change their mascot to a turkey. I'm in. I will provide interview material if that's needed.
All right.
Appreciate it, buddy. We will see you sometime here this summer to pop back in and fill everyone in. But everyone else, until next week for the next round here for MNCAA season recaps, go Tommies, and we'll see you soon.